Our top focus on 5 Live.
Exploding farmer anger in virtually every Western European capital. The EU summit kicks off tomorrow in Brussels, the capital of Belgium. But things are not looking good on the streets of both Brussels, Paris and other Italian cities. We're going to take you straight down there because the farmer protests have exploded into an all-out nightmare for European governments. I'm Shiv. I'm going to be putting the spotlight on the EU's paralysis today. As always, first the headlines. It's budget day. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman announces no changes in direct or indirect taxes in this year's interim budget. Corporate tax reduced to 20%, while tax slab rates remain unchanged. Prime Minister Modi lauds the interim budget, says it lays down the framework for a Viksit Bharat to reflect a young India's aspirations.
ये बजट विकसित भारत के 4 स्तंभ युवा, गरीब, महिला और किसान सभी को एम्पावर करेगा.
Puja rituals begin in the basement of the Gyanvapi mosque in Varanasi. Daily 5 aartis to be held. Muslim side moves Varanasi court again, seeks a stay on Puja rituals at the mosque complex. Hemant Soren to spend the night behind bars today. Enforcement Directorate seeks 10-day custody, says the former Jharkhand Chief Minister knowingly used scam money. Champai Soren and JMM MLAs to meet the governor shortly. Shimla receives the season's first snowfall. Big traffic logjam after over 240 roads are blocked in Himachal due to rain and snow. These are pictures coming in from the Himachal capital. The capital cities of virtually every Western European country are paralyzed today, viewer, because farmers in all of these countries have gotten into their tractors and in their hundreds gone to the center of town. The main images coming in today are from Paris, from Rome and from Brussels, the capital of the European Union, where the European Union Parliament is, where the European Union summit will be taking place tomorrow. Very, very dramatic images. Thousands of tractors are on the streets, at least 1,000 tractors, according to a local estimate in Brussels, are on the streets. They've gherowed the entire EU Parliament a day before the EU summit because angry farmers have decided to lodge and register their protest over the huge pressures of compliance owing to regulations on climate change, the price of their produce nosediving, not being able to get the correct price for what they've been growing, food inflation pressures and other government regulations that they say are inimical to farmer welfare. So farmers have all united in all of these European capitals. The big image, of course, today, including fire, arson, vandalism, stone pelting, and 1,000 tractors on the road are coming in from Brussels just one day before the big EU summit that will be held at the EU Parliament, which is situated in Brussels. Now, when we mention farmer protests, you of course remember the farmer protests that took place here in India just a few years ago. Farmers versus the European Union has intensified. In Brussels, the farmers have lit fires outside the European Parliament building as a part of the ongoing protests over excessive costs, rules and bureaucracy. But few have forgotten the protests that took place in India over progressive reforms that were being imposed on farmers. Finally, the government had to embarrassingly roll back the first progressive agricultural reforms in decades. But let's focus today not on India, but on Europe. The European Union, viewer, had lectured India. Many of these countries had given India condescending gyan a few years ago when the Punjab farmers had collected around the Ghazipur border and the Singhu border near Delhi to put pressure on the government. They had lectured India about farmer welfare. And today, that very same crisis is at their doors, except that it is not progressive policy. It is not progressive rules and regulations, but a whole gamut of other decisions being taken by the European Union that have come now to bite them back. The farmers are blocking traffic across Belgium, France and Italy this Wednesday as they Wednesday and Thursday as they're seeking to disrupt trade at major ports and other economic lifelines. Not just that, they were seen spraying milk on buildings or filling streets with cattle. 1,000 tractors are on the roads. Dutch farmers from the Netherlands are dumping manure on the streets and protesting outside politicians' houses. They've gotten into their tractors. They're lining up on highways and making it between state borders to register their protest in the most high-profile capitals. The agitation saw its beginnings last year in France when farmers started blocking roads across the country. France is Europe's largest agrarian producer. The farmers have been demanding government action to address numerous grievances, including not being paid enough, being choked by excessive regulation on environmental protection, and a huge litany of bureaucratic red tape that has stopped farmers from being able to expand and better their livelihoods. So let's just explain and clarify once again, because these visuals, viewer, I know are extremely compelling, and I want to continue to show you the most compelling pictures, the moving pictures of those tractors. I'm going to ask our producer to play the most dramatic images only so we can depict what really is happening outside the European Parliament, including the fire, the stone pelting, and those images of the tractors moving down the highway in large numbers. I want our viewers to see only those most compelling visuals, not the other static images. Now, why are European farmers protesting? Let me just summarize for you what the deal here is. Farmers claim in Europe that they aren't being paid enough, which is an amazing irony, given how the European Union and many of these countries had condescendingly lectured India about farmer welfare just a couple of years ago during the protests here. The farmers in Europe claim they're being choked by excessive environment regulations, competition from cheaper exports from other countries, high costs for energy, fertilizer and transport, the plan to phase out tax breaks on diesel and fuel. All of these have resulted in historic anger among European farmers, and that's the reason why they've united in their tractors in their thousands and decided to put a chokehold on Europe's biggest lifelines. They completely surrounded the European Parliament as well, which we'll be showing you in just a moment. Now, Europe's farmer uprising is happening in the following countries, viewer. We've shown you what's happening in Belgium, but it actually started in France, which is Europe's biggest agrarian producer by far. France, Germany, Belgium, Netherlands, Spain, Portugal, Romania, and Hungary. So largely confined to Western and Central Europe, but also a couple of countries in Eastern Europe, including Romania and Hungary, are also involved in this farmer action. So it's a united uprising by farmers looking to influence policy and put pressure on policy makers in order to roll back some of those rules and regulations. They say they are being choked. I want to bring in India Today's Nabila Jamal for more on this story. Nabila, very dramatic images that one doesn't usually see in European capitals. These are countries where law and order and discipline, especially in VIP areas, is a non-negotiable thing. But especially in Brussels tonight, but also Paris, thousands of tractors, pretty much paralyzing these very important areas to put pressure. Explain to us what's going on right now.
Unbelievable visuals coming in from European Union, Shiv. We see farmers there have literally brought the EU to its knees because the kind of protests that they've launched, and this is not in the last 24 hours, this has been on for the last 1 year. And at least in the last few weeks, we know that the farmers have escalated their protests. As we see, they've been spraying manure at buildings. They've literally out the parliament in EU. They've managed to actually break tarred roads, literally break away tarred roads through their tractors. Enough and more dirt that's being sprayed on reputed buildings across several areas of France, Italy, Germany. The protests have moved on to different countries of EU. And we also know the protests actually took on a different turn when a mother and daughter walked into the famed Louvre Museum in Paris and actually poured soup on the Mona Lisa's painting. Thankfully, it had a glass covering on it. But that's what happened. And that's where this entire news has grabbed headlines. The farmers, of course, are protesting against the low prices, the low wages that they get. And also, surprisingly, we see that a lot of the imports, be it tomatoes, cauliflower, cabbage, etc., that's coming in from different countries into countries like France and Italy, etc., are being thrown on the streets by the same farmers. So they're asking for better prices for imports and exports. And it appears that the EU has finally heard. Today, we believe there's a massive summit in EU, and right there is the protest that's happening. And they've already decided, especially France has decided, that they're going to come up with some measures to ensure the farmers are paid better, and export and imports, the prices that go to farmers particularly, are reworked. So there is a word on concession for these farmers, but how soon will that happen? That remains to be seen. But this has really hampered business in many of the EU countries, as you listed out.
Okay, stay with me, Nabila. I also want to get a perspective from France. We are joined now from Paris by Nicholas Barr. He's a senior journalist in France, and he's also watching this story unfold. Nicholas, thank you for your time and for being with us here on India Today. We've been looking at this story closely, these dramatic images of, hundreds of tractors, perhaps even thousands of tractors, on the road in Brussels and other cities, including possibly Paris. We do know that this farmer agitation began in France last year. It has carried on and escalated quite a bit ahead of the EU summit. How are you looking at this unfold, Nicholas?
Well, at this precise moment, the French Prime Minister is starting a press conference where he is expected to announce some measures in favor of those farmers. What is interesting is, as your reporters have said, is that this movement of protest is all over Europe. You had big protests in Germany, in Spain, and now in France, and they have many things in common. They protest a lot about what they think is an excess of norms, of regulations, in particular on environment, and but also there's another dimension, which is that they consider that they are unable to sell their product at a fair price to the industry, and it's particularly strong in this country, in France, where the farmers have been, the milk producers or meat or whatever, they're all saying that it's very difficult. They're not in a good position to negotiate with big industry and to sell their products at a fair price.
Yes.
And yeah, sorry.
Nicholas, do you think that the measures that are likely to be announced by the French leadership could defuse this situation?
Yes, it's possible, because just a few minutes ago, the head of the largest farmers' union has said that they were confident that they had assurance from the government that they would have good measures, and so that they have been heard. So we have the feeling that the government is giving up something, is in particular on regulation. They're ready to move forward,
yes.
And so there are many signs that the crisis could ease, at least. But at the same time, you have some farmers, which are probably a minority, but are very, very determined to continue.
Yes.
And so that's always difficult in that kind of movement. You have the bigger union who says, well, let's be reasonable. The government is taking good measures, and then you have other smaller organizations that are pushing for more money, more measures in favor of agriculture. I have to add that that
Yes.
kind of movement is very popular. People like the farmers, and so there's a lot of sympathy in public opinion. Farming. It's only 1.5% of the workforce in France,
Yes.
so it's very small in numbers, but it's very popular, and people like the countryside, like farmers and etc. So, sorry.
Is it also very political, Nicholas? Have opposition parties and opposition politicians also tried to get in on this and, make use of this whole agitation for political ends?
Yeah, of course, you're perfectly right, because in a few months, in June, we'll have the European elections for
Indeed,
the
yes.
European Parliament. And so, of course, it's the beginning of the campaign, and so all the opposition parties all over Europe, especially far right, are pushing, and they are using this movement for to gain votes. So it's very difficult for all governments in Germany, in the Netherlands, in France as well, to because of this electoral contest. We are in the middle of this, as you are in India. We're
Yes.
in the middle of a political campaign, and yes.
Absolutely.
It's,
Because there will be some who will draw parallels, Nicholas, between the farmer protests that took place in India a couple of years ago and these protests.
Yeah.
Similarly, there was a lot of public sympathy for the farmers here. The government
Yes.
actually had to roll back the laws that they had announced, even though those
Yeah.
laws were seen by many experts as being progressive and required for taking agriculture to the next level of modernization, etc. They had to roll it back because it had become such a political issue. Is there a danger of that
Exactly.
happening there as well in Europe?
Exactly, it's exactly the same pattern.
Yeah.
People are there's a paradox. People want more measures in favor of environment,
Yes.
to fight global warming, etc. And so more regulation on that. And then at the same time, well, the farmers are saying, well, that's too much a burden on us. And the same people who want that kind of regulation, stronger regulation on climate, they sympathize for the farmers.
Yeah.
And say, well, the governments and Brussels and Europe imposes too much regulations that
Yes.
are too strict, and it's true that the agricultural sector is subject to a lot of regulation. For example, if you can have tens of regulations for the same thing, and because you have the European level, you have the national level, regional level, etc. So it's kind of a nightmare for many farmers. And on top of that, of course, since the war in Ukraine, the energy costs have
Correct.
gone up.
Yes.
And it's also one of the reasons of the anger that we see today. It's these people have suffered from huge energy costs, and also because Europe wants to help Ukraine, we have opened up the European market to Ukrainian products like chicken, like wheat, like everything. So that we import Ukrainian products free of tax.
Yes.
And that's also something that make farmers angry, because they say that it's an unfair competition. Of course, we want to help Ukraine, but we not, but we don't want to have to pay for that. As a farmer, we don't want to pay for that.
Nicholas, last couple of questions. Since this entire agitation actually began last year in France, and now these protests have spread to all of the big capitals in Europe. Have all of these governments, including the French government, misjudged misjudged how big this was going to become? Did they miss that this was going to become a much, much bigger thing?
Yes, I think so, and they misjudge also the fact that these farmers' organizations all over Europe are talking together.
Yes,
You know,
exactly. Yeah.
2 days ago, I spoke to the head of one of the big unions here in France, and he was telling me that he had just before he had just a phone call with his Italian counterpart, and he was in contact with the Germans and everything. So probably the governments have misjudged this the fact that all these farmers organizations were able to speak together and that they had the same concerns.
So a press conference is, is going to be starting any moment now. We hope that things can be resolved very soon. The EU summit is about to start. So obviously the protests happening in Brussels right now, and they're very dramatic pictures of, fires being set and stones being thrown, etc. Nicholas, I'm sure you've seen those images as well. So one final comment from you. Obviously the farmers have been able to consolidate and unite in such a way as to bring the maximum amount of pressure on European politicians, and that's what we're seeing right now.
Yes, exactly. The paradox of the movement is that 1/3 of the EU budget is for agriculture. I mean, without these subsidies,
yes,
the French agriculture would be in a very, very difficult situation, much worse than today, and we could say the same for Italy, for Spain, for other European countries. So it's the farmers in Europe get a lot of subsidies from the taxpayers.
Yes.
But so that's why they are in Brussels now. They say, well, okay, you help us, but we want more, and also we want to renegotiate or some of the trade agreements that we have with other countries.
Absolutely.
They're very worried with a trade agreement that is being negotiated now, and the French president is against that treaty with Latin America, with Mercosur. And
True.
It's so that's one thing. But there are other trade agreements with New Zealand, with Chile, with etc. that are that the farmers want to abolish in a way.
Okay. We'll leave it there for the moment. Very much appreciate your time and your inputs on this story, Nicholas. Stay safe, and thank you very much for bringing us that big story on India Today. We'll keep an eye on those protests. There's a big EU summit coming up. Things are tense in Brussels and Paris. We'll update you as and when we hear more from these European capitals. And there's some terrible news coming in. Another Indian student in the United States has been found dead, this time in Cincinnati. The cause of death is still not known. Investigations are underway. This is the third death after 2 Indian students were killed last week. The third death of an Indian student in the US in just the last 1 week. Days ago, an MBA student, Vivek Saini, was hammered to death by a homeless man in a supermarket in Georgia. And Neelacharya, another student at Purdue University, was declared dead days after he went missing. So the third Indian student who's been found dead in just 1 week. We'll update you on those investigations when we hear more from our correspondents in the United States. We'll take a very quick break here on the news. Coming up on the other side, Puja rituals have begun after a gap of 30 years in the Gyanvapi mosque complex in Varanasi. We'll tell you all of the details that we're hearing on the other side, and 2 of the main petitioners will be joining us live.
Seats will the BJP get if general elections are held today?
Who would you rate as India's best chief minister?
Do you support the idea of one nation, one poll?
Will the consecration of the Ram temple help the BJP in the Lok Sabha elections?
After Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who do you think is best suited to be India's Prime Minister?
All this and more in the next edition of the India Today Mood of the Nation opinion poll, exclusively on India Today TV.
स्थिति यह है कि कल कोर्ट की ऑर्डर की कंप्लायंस में राज्य सरकार ने वहां पे कोर्ट की ऑर्डर को कंप्लाई कर दिया है और बैरिकेडिंग से एक गेट बना दिया गया है और वहां पे जो देवी देवता विराजमान थे उन देवी देवताओं को पुनः स्थापित करके वहां पे पूजा पाठ नित्य चालू कर दिया गया है। तो आज की जो वस्तु स्थिति है वो ये है कि व्यास जी के तहखाने में नियमित पूजा पाठ शुरू हो चुके।
भारत की इकॉनमी की साइज जितनी इस समय है, इसमें पूरी तरह से मैं आश्वस्त हूं इस इंटरिम बजट के कारण ही जो भी इंडिकेशन इस बजट से मिले हैं कि हमारी इकॉनमी जो आज दुनिया की टाइप 5 कंट्रीज में है उसकी साइज बढ़कर 2027 तक मोर देन $5 ट्रिलियन जाएगी और 2030 आते आते मोर देन $7 ट्रिलियन तक पहुंचेगी।
2047 का जो एक रोड मैप दिया है प्रधानमंत्री,
या उस रोड मैप उस टारगेट को हम अचीव करेंगे, हम लोग पूरी तरह से कॉन्फिडेंट हैं।
ऐतिहासिक बजट है जो पूर्ण रूप से परिलक्षित करता है कि प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी के नेतृत्व में जो भारत में एक नई क्रांति और परिवर्तन पिछले एक दशक में आई है, एक विकसित भारत का लक्ष्य, एक आत्मनिर्भर भारत का लक्ष्य, एक विश्व गुरु बनने का लक्ष्य, उन तीनों लक्ष्यों के प्रति पूर्ण श्रद्धा के साथ और गति के साथ भारत बढ़ चुका है।
प्रक्रिया रहेगी पूजा पाठ में, आप लोग क्या करने वाले हैं आज?
वही षोडशोपचार से पूजन होगा जैसे हम पूर्ववत करते आ रहे थे, वही पूजन करेंगे।
आप पहले भी कर रहे हैं अपने 93 से पहले?
नहीं, हम उसके पहले नहीं किए थे, यह हमारा दुर्भाग्य था, लेकिन अब करेंगे। अब तो सर्वप्रथम वहीं जाकर के करेंगे। और हमारी जो भारतीय सरकार है प्रशंसनीय है, ऐसी सरकार होनी चाहिए।
अंदर क्या क्या रखा है, आप गए अभी तक
अंदर? हमको जाने कहाँ दिया गया था अब तक।
अब आज से शुरुआत?
अब तो आज से शुरुआत किए हैं। इसको मान करके हम घर पर ही रुद्राभिषेक किए थे बाबा विश्वनाथ को मान करके। अब आज जा रहे हैं।
आम दर्शक या श्रद्धालु समझना चाहे कि पूजा अर्चना आप क्या करेंगे वहाँ पर तहखाने में जाकर, जो जहाँ पर आइडल्स रखे हैं, क्या होगा?
सब पहले पाद्यार्घ आचमनीय, शुद्धोदक स्नान, पंचामृत से स्नान करा करके भगवान को वस्त्र यज्ञोपवीत आदि करेंगे, तिलक करेंगे, पुष्पमाला देंगे, धूप दीप जलाएंगे, नैवेद्य चढ़ाएंगे, प्रार्थना करेंगे, आरती भी होगी एकदम जोर।
लगातार चलती रहेगी?
लगातार चलती रहेगी,
दफा दिन
शास्त्रवत चलती रहेगी। सुबह शाम तो चलनी ही है और मध्याह्न में भगवान का भोग लगेगा।
शयन आरती रात में हुई है, उसमें क्या कुछ हुआ होगा?
हाँ, वो भी जो है शयन आरती जो होगी वहाँ पर जो पूजा की प्रक्रिया है बाबा विश्वनाथ की वर्तमान में चली, सेम वही चलनी है, वही चलेगी।
जो बाबा विश्वनाथ की प्रक्रिया है वही प्रक्रिया
वही चलेगी। व्यास जी की जो परंपरा है, जो व्यास परिवार है, बहुत सुंदर लोग पूजा कराते आ रहे हैं और हमारी जो सरकार है बहुत सुनहरा मौका दिया हुआ है। तो अब क्या चाहिए, हम लोगों के लिए सौभाग्य का विषय।
30 years after Hindu Puja was stopped at the disputed Gyanvapi mosque site in Varanasi, after yesterday's court order in the city, the Vyasji ka Tehkana has been unsealed and the first puja in 3 decades was performed in the early hours of this morning. And these are the pictures that you're seeing on your screen right now in the basement cellars of the Gyanvapi mosque complex. Since then, it has been announced that there will be 5 aartis daily conducted at this cellar. While Hindu devotees are overjoyed, the Muslim side has filed a review petition in the Allahabad High Court challenging the Varanasi District Court's order that paved the way for what's happening on your screen. Here's a report.
"30 years later, deities were offered puja once again on 1st February 2024 at the southern cellars of Gyanvapi Mosque. 9 hours after the Varanasi court directed local administration to ensure that 10 cellars were unsealed, a diya was lit and aarti was performed. People thronged to worship and witnessed the historic moment at Vyasji ka Tehkana. At the end of the puja, 3 decades later, devotees received Bhog Prasad at this sacred shrine.
Movement has been set after the court verdict. Within hours, district magistrate and his team held a meeting, and in the wee hours yesterday, a meeting was held and the barricades were removed, the doors were opened and puja part began.
आनंद है, खुशी क्या कहें, आनंद मतलब एक आध्यात्मिक बोध है और ये 1993 से ये चल रहा था और ये डिसीजन कल आया है तो खुशी तो जरूर है।
इस समय खुल गया है तो बड़ी खुशी की बात है। हम लोग भी दर्शन करना चाह रहे हैं कि खुले के दर्शन करें,
इसीलिए यहाँ पर खड़े हुए हैं।
हाँ जी,
दर्शन करने का मौका मिले।
हाँ, दर्शन करने का मौका मिले।
The area near the mosque, located right next to Kashi Vishwanath Temple, witnessed frenetic activity late Wednesday night. The Varanasi administration swung into action. Heavy security was deployed. Barricading was removed from around the mosque cellars, named Vyasji ka Tehkana. A path was created so that devotees could offer prayers. The puja started around 3 a.m. on Thursday morning.
माननीय न्यायालय का जो ऑर्डर है उसके कंप्लेंट्स किया गया। क्या हुआ है? बैरिकेडिंग हटाई गई है, कोर्ट ऑर्डर की कंप्लेंट्स किया गया।
स्थिति यह है कि कल कोर्ट की ऑर्डर की कंप्लायंस में राज्य सरकार ने वहां पे कोर्ट की ऑर्डर को कंप्लाई कर दिया है और बैरिकेडिंग से एक गेट बना दिया गया है और वहां पे जो देवी देवता विराजमान थे उन देवी देवताओं को पुनः स्थापित करके वहां पे पूजा पाठ नित्य चालू कर दिया गया है। तो आज की जो वस्तु स्थिति है वो ये है कि व्यास के तहखाने में नियमित पूजा पाठ शुरू हो चुका है।
Gyanvapi Mosque has 4 cellars in its basement. One of them was in the possession of priest Somnath Vyas's family living nearby. Vyas family has been in charge of puja rituals in the cellar before it was sealed in 1993. Somnath Vyas is maternal great-grandfather of one of the petitioners, Shailendra Pathak. In court, Pathak argued that as hereditary priests, they should be allowed to enter the structure and worship Shringar Gauri and other visible and invisible deities in the cellar.
Order has been complied with by district administration, keeping in view the law and order situation which may get created. And the second thing is, these orders are not kept. These orders are not kept for waiting. These orders are implemented immediately. Therefore, the district administration, in its wisdom, has implemented the order last night, and from today, the worshippers, they are being allowed, they are entering, and they are worshipping there.
The Gyanvapi Masjid Committee has moved the Allahabad High Court challenging the Varanasi District Court's order allowing the Hindus to perform puja in Vyasji ka Tehkana, or the southern cellar of the Gyanvapi structure. They claim that they were deprived of any remedy as the administration opened the cellar in hasty midnight operation.
इस देश के संविधान में ही ये व्यवस्था दी है कि अगर आप किसी आदेश से सहमत नहीं है, किसी कोर्ट के न्यायालय के निचली अदालत के फैसले से सहमत नहीं, तो आप ऊपर जाएं, उसके लिए समय होता है। लेकिन सवाल इस बात का है कि सरकार क्या चाहती है? सरकार यही चाहती है कि पूरा देश, वो हिंदू मुसलमान, वो मंदिर मस्जिद के झगड़े में उलझा रहे हैं।
At the back of this, a video has emerged on social media that shows some youth changing the signboard towards the Gyanvapi Masjid complex. They can be seen pasting a sign saying Gyanvapi Mandir Marg. With Samarth Srivastav in Varanasi, Bureau Report, India Today.
And joining me now is senior advocate and one of the faces of the entire Gyanvapi case, Harishankar Jain. He and his son Vishnu Jain have been leading the legal battle for the Hindu side in the Gyanvapi case. Harishankar ji, आपको नमस्कार. Welcome to India Today. हमने देखा है आज हरिशंकर जी की the puja has started in the Tehkhana, in the cellars of the Gyanvapi mosque complex. I want to ask you, Harishankar ji, कि legally अगर हम देखेंगे तो अगला step क्या होगा? What is the next step legally, sir? Because Muslim side ने इसको challenge किया है, तो इसके बाद what is the next step legally you're expecting, sir?
देखिए, Muslim side has approached today to the Honorable Allahabad High Court, and whenever the date is fixed in the High Court, we will be there to oppose the petition, and we are hopeful that the matter will be decided by the Honorable High Court at the earliest. And second thing is, there is no question of any second step. The step is that puja should go on, and we should get the temple as it was originally before demolition at the earliest. And the present structure of so-called mosque, that should go, that should be removed. That is the main prayer. This is the ancillary prayer कि यहाँ पूजा शुरू हो गई और हो गई, that is not sufficient. Our motto is, and our main relief is that the entire area belongs to deity. It should be given to deity. Deity be declared owner, and possession should be given. And for that purpose, we have filed a suit, and suit is going on. And I think today or tomorrow, we will get the entire premises, and like Ajodhya, we will construct a magnificent Hindu temple of Lord Shiva, as it was glorious in 1580 before the demolition. It is our desire. And secondly, the report, ASI report, has confirmed that actually there was a temple that has been demolished, and once it is proved that temple was demolished, then the present structure has been constructed. So I very happily submit that it can't be a mosque. You can't say anything as mosque if the same is constructed after demolishing a Hindu temple or any religious place. So in this case, you will find that unnecessary Muslims are claiming, even though report is there, every proof is there. Irfan Habib, one of the prominent historians, has also written and accept that it was a mosque which has been raised after demolishing Hindu temple.
Harishankar ji, do you think that there is a possibility for an amicable reconciliation, sir? Do you think that, with the ASI report, with Irfan Habib, the historian, with some amount of public opinion saying that unlike the Ayodhya issue, which was stretched on for a very long time, in this case it should be, a reconciliation should happen unilaterally from the Muslim side. Do you think there is a possibility of that, sir? Do you think?
I think only one thing, that we are not going to give up any inch of land of Sri Kashi Vishwanath temple. We are not going to give up. And whatever the formula of negotiation, that is for the other side. We are not going to give and take. And without give and take, there can be no compromise. It is for the Muslim side to leave this place, because it has been proved to be Hindu temple. And at temple side, you can't construct temple. Construct a mosque. Because once a temple, always a temple. Even under Islamic law, you cannot say that on the plinth on the demolished structure of the Hindu temple, you can construct any mosque. You say and declare in so many words. In Ajodhya case also, a number of Muslim clerics have declared that we can't construct any mosque over a land which belongs to a temple. Fulfill this, your commitment.
Okay.
And here is the overwhelming evidence that, I repeat, that you constructed this structure after demolishing a Hindu temple.
Hari
So the
Shankar
only
ji,
thing is,
I take your
give
word,
us
sir.
that.
I take your point. I take your word. My third question to you, sir, is, theoretically everything is going by the book. It's going to the court. Legal, all the legal remedies are being used for this particular dispute. My question to you, sir, are you concerned about possible communal tensions? There will be vested interests who will try and use this issue to fan tensions in communities on both sides, to create polarization, etc. Are you concerned about that, sir? Because at the foundational level, this is theoretically a very sound case. It is going through the courts. But there is always a threat of communalization and tension and lack of harmony in society as a result, sir. Are you concerned about that?
Yes. The only thing is, when we demand our right, you say communal tension. When they demand their right, it is secularism. What the type of secularism? And why tension? The matter is in the court. Court is deciding. And if you do not allow us to go through court, the very foundation of constitution, that is the rule of law, that goes. That is meaningless. To go to court, get our right decided through court is the legal process, and that is the intention of the constitution. And once you go to the court, you say polarization, communalism, secularism. Where it comes? If I go like Shaheen Bagh, on roads, then you say don't polarize. That is another question. Yeah, we are not polarizing. We are not giving any call for any agitation. But it is only court. And you see, that once court decides anything, you say like this, if there will be communalization, there will be unrest. I say it is Gundaism, it is Bahubali. Like Bahubali, you are saying that we have captured our house, but if you speak, we will kill you. And there will be chaos and disorder.
Okay.
So what is this type of thing and threat we are threatening? It is not rule of law. It is not the intention of the constitution. Country is governed by constitution, and going to court and filing suit in court is one of the basic features of the constitution, and we have adopted that policy.
The question, Hari Shankar ji, my final question
and
to
you
you.
Cannot say.
My final question to you. I take your point, sir. My final question to you is after Ayodhya, after Gyanvapi, there's the Krishna Janmabhoomi issue, and your son Vishnu Jain has also talked about filing petitions across a range of different structures in different parts of the country. There will be concerns, sir, in society about where this ends. People will start interpreting this as a Hindu triumphalism, a kind of crusade. I'm just saying that that's how it will be interpreted, and that could lead to disharmony in society, sir.
Sir, I repeat, once you conceive this idea, you are killing my rights under the constitution. Filing the suit and approaching the court for redress of grievances. If you quote it as a communal disharmony, so how we can live? Where Article 25 will go? Whether Article 25 of the constitution is meant only for Muslims. They have a fundamental right of religion, and we have no right of fundamental right to religion. We are fighting for a fundamental right. We are starving to get back the right which have been taken away. We kindly read Article 13. All laws enforced in the territory of India, in so far they are inconsistent with the provisions of the Constitution, shall be void. All the actions which have been committed, sin has been committed, illegality has been committed, a temple has been demolished.
So you're saying even the Taj Mahal, the Qutub Minar, and other such structures will also be, the subject of petitions by you, sir, going forward?
I have filed. I have already filed. I filed Taj Mahal, Qutub Minar, Krishna Janmabhoomi. Dharmashala, and 16 petitions regarding temple for restoration of temple is likely to be filed and will contest all over India. It may be West Bengal, maybe Andhra, maybe Tamil Nadu, maybe UP, maybe Bihar, everywhere.
Okay.
Everywhere. It is our motto, and that is our plight. But I may tell you, only through legal means,
Yes.
we will file cases, win or lose. That is the other thing. But you can't restrict me, my right to file petition for the enforcement of Article 25 of the Constitution. It is our religious right.
Sir, do you
It is not restricted to Muslims.
Harishankar ji, you will see lots of politicians, trying to gain from what is happening in these cases. You have been very clear from the beginning that this is not a political issue. This is an issue of dharma. This is an issue of spirituality. This is an issue of religious rights. Correct? How do you feel about, the politics getting into this, sir? And I don't mean one party or two parties. I mean many different parties are trying to gain from what's going on in these cases.
My personal view is that is a political issue. Why election takes place? Election takes place what the law should be. Kindly see, place of worship has been enacted by Parliament. It is our right to say that party who repeals, we will vote only for that party. The work fight, lakhs of land, valuable land that has been taken away by work board. We can say work board be amended. Okay. So it is a political issue. And in election, every question of principle has to be considered by the public. And it is our right to give vote or not to give vote, and not to give vote to the party who goes against Hindu sentiments.
Okay.
It is our right.
Harishankar Jain, thank you very much, sir. It's been a pleasure speaking to you. Thank you for taking all of my questions and answering them candidly here on India Today. Thank you, sir. I'm also joined now by Manju Vyas ji. She's a petitioner in the Gyanvapi case. Manju ji, आपका स्वागत है. पहले तो मैं आपको शुभकामनाएं देना चाहता हूं कि कोर्ट की तरफ से आपके लिए एक गुड न्यूज़ आया है कल, और आज ये पूजा भी शुरू हुआ है. 30 साल के बाद शुरू हुआ है ज्ञानवापी के बेसमेंट में. आज क्या हुआ था, क्या एक डिटेल में बता सकते हैं मंजू जी कि आपके लिए ये इम्पोर्टेंट क्यों है और एग्जैक्टली क्या हुआ था आज? मंजू जी, मेरी आवाज आ रही है? Okay, I think Manju Vyas cannot hear me. I'll go to her in just a moment, but we also have Jitendra Nath Vyas, who's a member of the same Vyas family and a former custodian of the Vyas Tehkana of the Gyanvapi complex. This is the area where that the puja has started taking place today. Jitendra ji, मेरा पहला सवाल है कि आज जो पूजा शुरू हुआ है कोर्ट वर्डिक्ट के बाद, उसके बारे में आप क्या कहेंगे? इसका क्या महत्व है, क्या इंपॉर्टेंस है आपके लिए?
हमारे परिवार के लिए बहुत खुशी की बात है, बहुत सौभाग्य का समय है समझ लीजिए, और हम क्या कर सकते हैं. हमारी विरासत जो है हमको मिल गई, भगवान हमारे मिल गए जो है, और इससे बढ़ के हम क्या कर सकते हैं.
आपके परिवार, व्यास परिवार के लिए ये कितना इम्पोर्टेंट है जितेंद्र जी? क्योंकि इस कोर्ट का जो ऑर्डर है जो सामने आया है कल, उस ऑर्डर में ये कहा जाता है कि ये जो बेसमेंट है ज्ञानवापी मॉस्क में, वो ब्रिटिश राज के दौरान भी आपके परिवार के का ही एक प्रॉपर्टी था.
हाँ बिल्कुल थी भाई, मुसलमानी राज से ही हम लोगों का जो है वहाँ पर चला रहा है सारा का. तो मुसलमानी राज के बाद अंग्रेजी राज ना आया, तो शुरू से ही चला रहा. अंग्रेजी राज में भी था उसी तरह लैंड.
1993 में जितेंद्र जी, मुलायम सिंह यादव की सरकार ने इसको बंद कर दिया था. जो पूजा हो रही थी उस टाइम तक वो सब कुछ बंद हो गया था. क्या आप याद करके बता सकते हैं कि एग्जैक्टली क्या हुआ था, कैसे बंद हुआ था?
उसमें जो है विरोध हुआ, मेरे लोग विरोध किए थे, मतलब दरवाज़ा न लग पाए. दरवाज़ा वहाँ पहले से था, लकड़ी का दरवाज़ा था, ताला हम लोगों का बंद होता था. उसके बाद दरवाज़ा बना, लेकिन उन्होंने लगने नहीं दिया उसको.
जी, ये कोर्ट ऑर्डर के बाद क्या आप अंदर गए हैं तहखाने में? आपने क्या क्या देखा उसमें?
हाँ, उसको में बांस बल्लियाँ हमारी रामायण की सारी रखी रहती है, शुरू से रखी जाती है। और वहाँ जो है कबल के निशान बने हुए हैं, मूर्तियाँ जैसे मगर की, ये सब रखी हुई थी वहाँ पर हैं। ये सब चीज़ चिन्ह थे वहाँ पर जो है मंदिर के सारे जो है। और खंभे भी आदि प्राचीन काल के हैं, मंदिर के ही सारे खंभे लगे हुए नीचे, उसमें भी आकृतियाँ हैं।
Remember, India Today will continue to track the story. Jitendra ji, आप जुड़ने के लिए धन्यवाद from Varanasi. We will continue to track and bring you all voices from all sides here on India Today with the greatest amount of sensitivity. We are all Indian citizens. These are disputes that we will navigate. This one is going through the court, but we will bring you all voices and all facts on this case. Thanks for watching today's edition. Up next is 6 p.m. Prime with Preeti Chaudhary. The big suspense in Jharkhand following the arrest of Hemant Soren is the big story with Preeti next.